Welcome guys to Emberware Plays, the second episode. Today's game is The Swapper. It is a 2D platform with heavy story influences made by Facepalm Games in May 2013, and it is a blast. Before we actually go into the game, let's take a moment to appreciate the music and the wonderful introduction scene.
Alright everybody, welcome into The Swapper. So, Armand, at the beginning you told us to listen to the music a little bit. Why is that? What's so great about the music in this game?
So let's start out with the fact that I love this music. It's one of my favorite official soundtracks ever. To start off, it's so hauntingly beautiful. That initial piano that just kind of goes in and fades out. It's very atmospheric. If you even look around what's going on the screen, I'm in this foreign planet. I just landed. I have no idea what's going on. I'm alone. This game's music ties in so well with the plot. And you might notice the tension in the music isn't really there. It's very soothing, calm. And that's because there's nothing that's going to be out there that's going to try to hurt you or kill you or anything like that. No, this is all about you exploring this world and finding out what has happened. This game will pose some really philosophical questions. They're really deep. Like, when I finish this game, I had to take a moment to pause. And this music is excellent. I finished the game, Riley. But you haven't, actually. And so what do you think of the plot so far?
The plot of this game, like you were saying before, the music sets the tone of the rest of the game. There's a lot of unanswered questions, Who am I? Where am I? What am I doing? Where did I come from? I don't know any of this. These aren't the last questions that the game's going to be asking me. It's going to be provoking questions about my identity in terms of who am I in relation to these clones that I'm making? Who are they? Are they part of me? Am I them? Later on, you'll see that we can swap between them. This game hits on questions that have been asked for centuries about what does it mean to be me? And can I switch that with another person? Does it actually change who I am if I become someone else? Or if I, make a clone of myself and become that thing? It's a lot of questions that I'm sure you've thought about whenever you have some downtime. And so this game's going to go into those, and it's not really going to resolve them on its own. It's going to make the player think about these questions and kind of resolve them for themselves. There's also, this race of rocks called the Watchers that are also sentient. So the game asks questions about not only identity, but consciousness. And this is a wonderful thing because it provides a lot of motivation for players to keep going on through this game. I haven't finished it yet, and I really want to, simply because it's setting up all of these questions for me that I really need to answer, in my own life as well as in the game. How does the gameplay reflect a little bit more in the plot?
I like to say that you guys have seen all game mechanics you'll ever see in this game. Cloning and swapping. Two very fundamental things, very simple things actually, just a couple of mouse clicks and you're done. It leaves room to build complexity. Later on, it will slowly introduce environmental items, environmental elements, that will give birth to these puzzles. You saw there's a red light. That red light stops me from swapping with my clone. And so I have to figure out how am I going to do up this red light. And bam, there's the puzzle right there. Not just this, but usually games tend to have a disconnect between gameplay and plot. But here, they are so integral to each other. I'm making these clones, but how am I making these clones? And this game will explore that. Not just this, but I'm swapping. Even in game, we don't know how we're doing this. We reverse engineer this. But what does that mean? What does it mean to swap? It just leaves you asking so many questions. I mentioned that these puzzles come to being organically. This was from level design, and you were really impressed by this game's level design. How come, Riley?
This game's got immaculate design because, like you were saying before, they hand you the tools at the start. So you're given your swapper gun that can make clones of you. You're given the ability to swap in between them, and those are the mechanics of the game. And the level design is generative, it's iterative. It makes you learn a concept and then builds upon that concept, and it doesn't throw any of the past concepts away. And I really like that in a game, because what it does is, at the start of the game, you learn, okay, I can make a clone. That's great. What can I do with the clone? Well, I can put them on a button, and the button opens up a gate. It does something to the environment, which is an important thing to learn, because then you have to figure out, alright, I can make a clone, and I can swap to him. So now I can use the clones to traverse spatial distance. Then you can put those two things together in a puzzle, and you can say, alright, now I need to make a clone to put on this button, but then I need to swap to another clone. And that happens in a puzzle later on. And then you get the involvement of lights. So you add environmental influences, and you're constantly adding these new things into the game, but building on the things you've already learned about. And so the game is paced out between the puzzles and between just some kind of idle moments where you're not really doing anything, you're just kind of sitting there thinking or moving the plot along. And during those times, you're able to just sit there and kind of soak in the beauty of the environment, which is really gorgeous. So Armand, how did they make the art for this game?
It is really quite unusual. This is all clay. All the assets in this game are clay. This is not something that is done very often. What's cool about this is that not only does it tie back into the plot, always plot, but also their use of colors with this clay, in that whenever there's something that wants to engage you, there is a lot of bright color, such as the blue light, the red light. Whenever there's a plot element, there'll be also, or something to learn about, there'll be a lot of color. Then whenever there's nothing going on, it just goes drab. All of a sudden, things are so empty. And so I mentioned the plot. There's such a juxtaposition where I'm in this advanced space station. This is maybe 1,000 years in the future. I don't know, we don't have this technology. But I'm using clay to represent this. This is something that we've had for millennia. And there's some irony in the fact that we're using clay to represent something that is more advanced than what we are today. And we're, the cutting edge technology. This just goes to show how complex of a game and the swapper is. So Riley, where can we get the swapper?
You can get the swapper on Steam or several sites around the internet, Good Old Games, the publisher's website, and others. It's also available on PlayStation 3, 4, and the Vita, and it's out on Linux as well. So thank you guys very much for watching. Tell us about your first impressions of the swapper in the comments.